What if one of America's closest allies just cut a deal that rewrites the rules of air combat? The bond between the United States and Canada has been the cornerstone of North American defense for decades, a relationship built on trust and shared technology. But what happens when the quiet neighbor to the north, feeling the heat of a changing world, decides to rip up the script? For years, the Saab Gripen was a good but not great fighter jet, a nimble, affordable workhorse. But what if a secret team-up with Rolls-Royce gave it a revolutionary Mach 7 engine, turning it from a welterweight contender into the undisputed heavyweight champ of the sky? This isn't just a what-if. It's a high-stakes power play happening right now. America is furious, the world is watching, and we're about to uncover the secret project that shattered an alliance and created an aerospace superpower practically overnight. So, how did we get here? It all starts with the Saab Gripen E. It's a brilliant machine, loved by pilots for its low running costs and its guerrilla striker ability to operate from rugged makeshift runways. Its open architecture software means it can be upgraded constantly, making it incredibly adaptable. But for all its strengths, the Gripen always had one big catch: its engine. The standard Gripen runs on a General Electric F414G engine, an American power plant. That little detail puts any country flying the Gripen under the thumb of the US government and its strict arms regulations, known as ITAR. These rules give Washington a veto on how its defense tech is used, shared, or sold. If you bought Gripens and later wanted to sell them or upgrade them in a way the US didn't like, you were toast. For Canada, this created a massive strategic problem: the Arctic. It's a huge, unforgiving territory packed with resources, and an increasingly bold Russia is constantly probing its borders. Patrolling this region requires jets with incredible range and reliability that can intercept threats across vast distances in brutal weather. For a long time, the debate in Ottawa was all about the F-35. It's a beast of stealth and sensor tech. But as political friction with the US grew, many in Canada started asking if it was smart to depend entirely on a single American supplier for their national sovereignty. Plus, there were real worries about the F-35's high operating costs and how it would perform in the bone-chilling Arctic cold. Suddenly, a different capability became more important than stealth: raw, face-melting speed. Canada needed an interceptor that could scramble from a frozen runway and close a 1,000-kilometer gap in minutes, not hours. The existing planes just wouldn't cut it. They had to find their own solution. The answer didn't come from some government committee. It came from a top-secret program codenamed Project Nightingale, a quiet partnership between Ottawa, Saab's Swedish brainpower, and the game-changing engine developers at Rolls-Royce and its partner, Reaction Engines. While Reaction Engines was getting press for its SABRE spaceplane engine, almost nobody knew a version of that tech was being secretly adapted for a fighter jet. The result is the heart of this story: a power plant we'll call the EJ-230, a combined-cycle hypersonic engine that's like giving the Gripen 3 engines in one. And its secret sauce is a piece of tech that sounds like pure science fiction: the precooler. So, what is that? The biggest wall in hypersonic flight is heat. At speeds over Mach 5, the air entering a jet engine gets so compressed it can hit over 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt any known alloy. For 50 years, this heat barrier was unbreakable. The precooler, from Reaction Engines, obliterates that barrier. Imagine it as a blast freezer at the gates of hell. It's a web of thousands of paper-thin tubes filled with supercooled fuel. When that 1,000-degree air screams into the engine, it passes over this network and is flash frozen to minus 150 degrees Celsius in less than 1/20th of a second. Let that sink in. It's an almost instant deep freeze that gives the engine core cold, dense air it can use just like a normal jet. This is what makes sustained hypersonic flight possible. The EJ-230 engine is an engineering marvel. For takeoff, it's a normal, efficient turbojet. As it blasts past Mach 2.5, it bypasses the turbine fans and becomes a ramjet, using its own speed to compress air. Then, above Mach 5, it transitions again into a scramjet, a supersonic combustion ramjet, where the air never slows down, letting the Gripen accelerate to a cruising speed of Mach 7. And here's the move that made Washington lose its mind. Instead of letting this tech stay a British research project controlled by ITAR, Canada used its own sovereignty fund to quietly set up a production line in Montreal. Using its own advanced manufacturing industry and a tech transfer deal with Rolls-Royce, Canada started building the EJ230 on its own, completely outside of American control. The engine the US thought was a far-off experiment was now rolling off an assembly line in their own backyard, ready to be fitted into a jet they couldn't touch. This is the kind of deep dive analysis we do every week, uncovering the tech and the power plays that are reshaping our world. If you're enjoying this look into the future of air power, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what comes next, because the political fallout is just as explosive as the technology. Why is America so furious? You have to understand that global power isn't just about having the biggest army. It's about controlling the highest level of military technology. Rules like ITAR are the fortress walls that guard this tech supremacy. They ensure that even America's closest allies are still dependent on US industry and policy. Canada's play with the EJ230 didn't just find a loophole, it blasted a massive hole through the fortress wall. By funding and co-developing a production line on its own soil, Canada created the one thing the Pentagon has spent decades trying to prevent: a completely non-US, ITAR-free supply chain for a game-changing weapon. This isn't just about a fighter jet. It's a direct challenge to American dominance in aerospace. The strategic shift is stunning. A Mach 7 Gripen isn't just an upgrade, it's a whole new category of weapon. It can intercept bombers before they even get in range to launch their missiles. It can fly reconnaissance missions over enemy territory with almost zero risk. It can evade practically every air defense system on the planet. In the chess game of air power, Canada didn't just get a new piece, it flipped the whole board over. This has created what analysts are calling the Gripen Bridge. Suddenly, SABRE can market its jet not just as a cheap 4.5 Gen fighter, but as a hypersonic-ready platform. Any country that can't, or won't, buy top-tier American jets now has another option. They can buy a Gripen with the standard American engine today, knowing that an upgrade to the Canadian-built EJ230 is on the table for tomorrow. An upgrade Washington can't block. Whispers are already spreading. Recent reports of Colombia showing renewed interest in the Gripen are suddenly making a lot more sense. Are they just buying a jet? Or are they the first in line to cross the Gripen Bridge and get on the path to hypersonic speed without asking the US State Department for permission? The Pentagon is no longer just worried about rivals like China or Russia. It's now facing the nightmare of its own allies getting hypersonic tech through a back door it can't close. The quiet neighbor to the north has become a rogue tech broker, and Washington is furious and powerless to stop it. So what can this new Gripen, nicknamed the Arctic Wolf by its first pilots, actually do? Picture this. An unidentified bomber is detected flying over the North Pole. In the old days, that started a tense countdown. An F-35 would scramble, but its strength is stealth, not pure sustained speed. It would take time to get there. Now, enter the Arctic Wolf. An alarm sounds at a Royal Canadian Air Force base in Inuvik. A Gripen with the EJ230 engine takes off. For the first 100 kilometers, it flies like a normal jet. Then the pilot slams the throttle. The engine kicks into its ramjet cycle, and the jet screams past Mach 3. High over the frozen wasteland, it transitions again. The scramjet ignites. The Gripen becomes a hypersonic blur, closing a 1,000-kilometer gap in minutes. It arrives on target with so much speed and energy that the threat is neutralized before it even knew what was coming. This is a revolution in air defense. This capability completely changes Canada's place in the world. The vast, impossible distances of the Arctic are suddenly manageable. The tyranny of distance, which was always Canada's biggest weakness, has just been conquered by speed. And there are other perks. The Gripen's modular design meant swapping in the new engine was surprisingly simple. The engine's unique cycle also gives it a shockingly low heat signature when cruising at Mach 7, making it a ghost moving at 7 times the speed of sound. This is the new reality. This whole story is about a calculated gamble. Facing the immense challenge of defending the Arctic, Canada chose to innovate, radically. By secretly partnering with British engineers and investing in its own industry, Ottawa leapfrogged an entire generation of aerospace tech. They've built a fighter that rewrites the meaning of interception and deterrence, giving themselves the perfect tool for their environment. But this bold move came at a price. The trust that was the bedrock of the US-Canada Defense Alliance has been shattered. The anger in Washington is real, born from the shock of losing control over a critical military technology. Canada, long seen as a dependable sidekick, has asserted its independence in the most dramatic way possible, becoming an unlikely new power in the aerospace world. So, will other nations follow Canada's lead and seek their own tech independence? And will this force the US to finally start treating its allies more like partners instead of customers? The age of the hypersonic Gripen is here, and military aviation will never be the same. Did Canada secure its future, or did it just kick off a dangerous new arms race between friends? Let us know what you think in the comments.